We are not nearly done fighting. We're not going to stop until he walks out of prison a free man to his family.
The fight isn't over for Sean Diddy Combs. A month after being convicted by a jury, his defense team is asking to vacate the verdict or put him back on trial.
Diddy might be released any moment now, and the courtroom is a flurry of activity. Insiders described the recent filing of a strong motion for early release as dynamite. This isn't your average court petition. This is a high-stakes, strategic maneuver that took everyone by surprise.
Is now not only fighting to get out, he wants the whole thing overturned. And his main argument is, I didn't have sex with them, I just directed amateur porn.
He didn't just sit there, though.
He self-pleasured during these acts. You may not hire someone to perform sex acts in front of you for your own personal pleasure.
Right.
That is still an act of prostitution.
The mogul last faced a court during his 32-day federal trial in New York, which wrapped in late June. Prosecutors accusing him of illegally orchestrating drug-fueled group sex marathons he called freak-offs.
I'm the world's most interesting man, and I throw the best parties.
Sometimes it was a scary situation. You have, 12 people who hold the fate of your life.
Diddy maintained his innocence and, in the end, was found not guilty of the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, dodging the possibility of a life sentence. He was, however, convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, the max 20 years.
Diddy is going to get some time. I'm expecting something on the lower end of maybe 3 to 4 years.
But in a new 62-page motion filed Wednesday, Diddy's legal team is throwing a Hail Mary. They're arguing the convictions should not stand. One, because they go against precedent. They say, quote, Combs is the only person ever convicted under the statute where he neither had sex with the alleged prostitutes, nor profited, nor acted with the intent to commit any sexual assault or trafficking. And 2, because the mounds of scandalous evidence presented in court to prove the now rejected charges poisoned the jury.
That ended in Sean Diddy Combs' conviction on 2 federal sex crimes charges. Could he be pardoned by the President of the United States? That is a question that came up a lot when we were doing the live streams of the Diddy trial every day on YouTube. I never really considered it as a real possibility, but I'll tell you what, now, based on current reporting, we may have to take this seriously. Oh, and in terms of relief for Diddy, we also have to get into his defense team's new memo that they filed arguing that his conviction should be thrown out, or at the very least, he should get a new trial. We're going to talk about that too. And by the way, let me tell you, we have an amazing guest who I'm going to be bringing on in a little bit, somebody who actually helped secure federal pardons for his clients, including from President Trump, and is an expert in criminal law, has been following this case from the very beginning. I'm going to bring him on in a little bit. But why do I say that we have to take pardons seriously now? Why? Well, TMZ has reported that President Donald Trump's administration has been talking to Diddy's legal team about a potential pardon, a forgiveness for a federal crime. It's enshrined in the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1, the president shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. And according to TMZ, his decision to pardon Diddy may be determined based on if Judge Arun Subramanian grants Diddy bail, which, by the way, we dedicated a whole sidebar to the other day. His team just filed a brand new letter with the court asking for him to be released. I broke it down, discussed all those arguments. But TMZ also has reported that the pardon decision could also come down to how Diddy is ultimately sentenced on October 3rd. And remember, he was acquitted of racketeering and sex trafficking, but he was found guilty of the 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, the Mann Act violations, namely transporting his exes, Jane and Cassie Ventura Fine, and men across state lines for the purposes of...
According to reports, the motion contests several important elements of the case, citing procedural inaccuracies, dubious testimony, and what Diddy's team claims is a violation of his rights. The tone of the courtroom changed the instant it landed on the clerk's desk. The defense lawyers appeared assured. Not so much about the prosecution. The judge is already considering the motion, according to people familiar with the matter, and things might happen quickly. Weeks are out of the question. We haven't even spoken in days. We are discussing hours. Diddy might be removed before the following news cycle if the court deems that even one of the arguments made has substance. This occurs during a period of unprecedented public pressure and media attention. In this circumstance, every action is scrutinized, and this gesture simply turned the story on its head. Divergent views are already being expressed by legal analysts. It's a long shot, they say. It's airtight, according to others. There's no denying that Diddy's
5 years in prison. Trump pardons him. He's free to go. President Trump was asked about this a few months ago before the verdict. This was back in May. And he said when asked about a pardon for Diddy, I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. And Diddy had been photographed with Trump over the years. There was some sort of relationship there. President Trump even called him a good friend on a 2012 episode of his TV show The Apprentice. Problem is, some comments Diddy made about Trump in recent years as Diddy really entered the political realm. There's a video where he's speaking to radio host Charlemagne saying, if Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. In another video on Revolt, he says white men like Trump need to be banished. And by the way, you know who's not letting anyone forget this? Combs' rival 50 Cent. Took to social media recently, wrote, see, Trump don't like S like this, buddy. You run your mouth too much. And Donald doesn't take well to disrespect and doesn't forget who chooses to go against him. While working tirelessly to make America great again, there is no room for distraction. He would consider pardoning anyone who was being mistreated, not Puff Daddy. And let me tell you, the idea of Trump pardoning Diddy is not getting a ton of love out there. Conservative commentator Megyn Kelly posted on X, Trump should not pardon Diddy. He doesn't deserve it. He's a Trump hater. He's a woman abuser. MAGA is already upset over elites seeming to cover for each other. This would not help. GOP struggling with young female voters, most of whom will hate a Diddy pardon. And then you just had other random accounts like America First. What? He's actually considering this? Diddy is a depraved, abusive, sexual deviant who should be spending the rest of his life in prison. If Trump pardons him, he will get absolutely crushed. Who is advising him lately? It's looking like straight up sabotage at this point. There were other accounts that were not in favor of it, although there was this account. Milo posted on X, Trump has no choice but to pardon Diddy after the government, led by James Comey's daughter Maureen, simply lost interest in Diddy's guilt the moment they secured his tapes incriminating powerful Democrats. The prosecution was a shambles. The trial was a farce. Now, I want to talk about if this is really going to happen, how it would happen. Also, if it really depends on bail and sentencing, then what are we talking about? And I have somebody who not only has been following the Diddy case from the very beginning, not only is a renowned criminal defense attorney, but actually has obtained federal pardons from the president, including from Donald Trump. By the way, for his clients Kodak Black and Lil Wayne, those were maybe the most notable. I'm joined by Bradford Cohen. Bradford, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
Now, before I even get into the pardon, okay, there was a bit of breaking news before we were going to come on. This is what I want to get your opinion on first. So Combs' defense team filed a memo in support of a motion for judgment of acquittal, or in the alternative, a motion for a new trial. And basically, I know you read through it, but basically the evidence, they would say, is insufficient to sustain that conviction. Their main arguments is really echoing what we've talked about a little bit when it came to the bail analysis, but that his prosecution, his conviction on these Mann Act prostitution charges is so unique. He wasn't profiting off of this business. All consenting adults were involved. The jury didn't find that there was any sex trafficking. They argued this isn't even prostitution per se, it's voyeurism. That the intent wasn't for people to travel for sex for money, but he paid them for...
This wasn't put together hastily. It landed like a bombshell and was well thought out. The judge is the center of attention right now. The industry might be rocked by a single signature. Everything could alter with a one decision. Additionally, Diddy won't simply go if this motion is approved. He'll leave with momentum, a statement, and the entire world looking on. The timing of this motion is what makes it so captivating. Filed forcefully but silently, Did's attorneys were developing a legal weapon while the media was preoccupied with rumors and headlines, and now it's on the table, vying for attention. The petition points to discrepancies in the time frame provided by the prosecution. It casts doubt on the reliability of some important witnesses. It displays CCTV footage purportedly in conflict with government statements. In addition, it charges the state with improperly managing the evidence. There are more to raise eyebrows if that isn't enough. According to Diddy's lawyers, more exonerating evidence has emerged, evidence that was withheld or disregarded. They claim that it completely alters the case's context.
of Sean Diddy Combs entering a new chapter after his guilty verdicts. In court docs obtained by E! News, the Bad Boy Records founder filed a new motion July 30th requesting to either overturn his convictions or grant the 55-year-old a brand new trial. Less than a month after Combs was convicted for transportation to engage in prostitution, his attorneys calling the verdict unprecedented, alleging Combs never actually committed illegal acts as the law describes, saying in their motion Combs, at most, paid to engage in voyeurism as part of a swinger's lifestyle. That does not constitute prostitution under a properly limited definition of the statutory term. The media mogul's legal team demanding an acquittal, and if not, they'll request a fresh start in court without evidence tied to his not guilty verdicts surrounding charges for racketeering and sex trafficking. This comes after the trial judge denied Diddy's request to be released on bail, leaving him behind bars in his New York City detention center, where the rapper awaits his sentencing hearing scheduled.
They claim it demonstrates how important information were initially distorted. This is when it becomes even more severe, though. The move goes beyond simply dissecting the case. It is directed at the prosecution. Detailed allegations of selective enforcement, wrongdoing, and bias are presented. Diddy's release is not the only goal here. This aims to undermine the case's very foundation. People are also paying attention. There are already rumors that the judge is considering it carefully. Legal teams scramble behind closed doors. They're making phone calls. They're rewriting strategies. Because if this motion is successful, it establishes a precedent that may be used in subsequent cases. Diddy, meanwhile, says nothing, just silence, no interviews, no announcements. And because quiet might indicate either confidence or failure, the tension increases during that period. And a lot of people are betting on the latter because of the nature.
Time, he makes a First Amendment argument that the freak-offs and the hotel nights were performances that were typically videotaped so they could watch them later on. It's just amateur pornography. And then finally makes the argument that he was prejudiced because of all the other evidence that came in to prove RICO or sex trafficking and would have never came in if he was merely being prosecuted for prostitution, particularly the Intercontinental Hotel footage of him purporting to meet up Cassie Ventura Fine. And he says, at the very least, he needs a new trial. I hand it over to you. You think this is a successful argument?
Thank you. I don't know if it's going to be successful in the judgment of acquittal. I think the argument is interesting because everyone agrees he might be the only person in custody right now that has ever been convicted of the Mann Act. The Mann Act, and it gives a nice history of the Mann Act, and a lot of people don't understand what the Mann Act is, but the Mann Act was enacted because of a racist motivation that white women were being recruited by people of color to go across state lines and make money. So actually pimping those women across state lines and making money off of their sexual exploits. Obviously, that's not the case here. It's used so infrequently, it might have been a handful of people who were actually charged with the Mann Act. No one in custody currently has ever been convicted of the Mann Act. So it's an interesting argument to say, hey, listen, this Mann Act, the original reason for it was racist. The original way that it was applied was racist. The way it's applied here is incorrect because he was not making any money from quote unquote pimping or getting these women across, or men getting them across state lines. None of that was being done. This was all being done for entertainment purposes. So it's an interesting argument. I don't think this judge buys it. It might be interesting on an appeal, but I don't think the judge is going to give him a judgment of acquittal on those two counts based on the argument. Now, the more interesting argument to me, and it's their last argument for new trial, is that, listen, if you were just going to charge him with these two counts, which I originally said when I looked at all the evidence, and don't forget, I was getting calls during this trial from individuals that were telling me, hey, I have information that exonerates what they're saying against Sean Combs, essentially saying that Cassie and others were participating more than just having sex in a room. They were participating more than that. They were paying people. They were hiring people. They were sending me pictures even when Diddy wasn't around. They were asking me to come over even when Diddy wasn't around. these are what these witnesses were telling me, which is really Brady evidence. And I don't know if that was ever turned over. But the more interesting argument is that all these counts were charged. The only thing he was convicted of were the Mann Acts. And he probably wouldn't have been convicted of these Mann Acts, but for all this other stuff that came in to try and prove these counts that they could not prove and did not have a basis for bringing.
Let me just challenge you on that, because this is...
Let's discuss the potential results. The lawsuit moves forward with uncertainty if the motion is denied. Every bit of information, every witness account, and every argument will be examined through the prism of the recently revealed information. Diddy walks if the motion is approved. Just out, no strings attached, no requirements. And if that occurs, there will be a great deal of backlash. Supporters will rejoice, detractors will be furious, and the legal system will once more be at the forefront of national discussion. Already, social media is exploding. Trendy hashtags. Line by line, they were breaking down the move. Breakdowns are posted by legal influencers. Reporters are referring to it as the year's biggest story. And the same question is being asked by everyone. Why didn't we anticipate this? Because that's what makes it so brilliant. Diddy's squad was more concerned with strategy than the general audience was with show. They were building in silence, while everyone else was yelling. Cleverly, and they have now taken action. It is a type of legal strategy that changes public opinion and compels individuals to reevaluate all of their preconceived notions. It presents Diddy not only as a defendant, but also as someone who might have been harmed by the legal
charges. But the evidence that came out during the course of the trial, wouldn't it be difficult for the president to justify maybe pardoning Diddy? Maybe it is a commutation. Maybe it is, if he gets 5 years, he says, okay, I'm commuting it down to 2 or 2.5. I don't know how it would work, but that's the part that I think people might be struggling with, and what you heard, I think, from Megyn Kelly.
And even his own lawyers, no one was coming out here saying that Sean Combs is an angel, that Sean Combs doesn't do anything that is off the wall, crazy. These things, no one is claiming that. And in fact, even during my interviews, when I was saying things that weren't so popular, saying like, listen, he's only going to get convicted of these Mann Acts. I don't think he's going to get convicted of anything. And people were attacking me and saying like, oh, you like, abusers. That's not the point here. The point is to look at the law, apply the law fairly, apply the facts to the law. That's what's important here. And that's what I was doing when I was looking at the case. Looking at this from that standpoint, he's going to have been in for about 15 or 16 months by the time he gets sentenced. It's not like he got a freebie. If he got a misdemeanor battery, he would have served 364 days in jail. If he got a couple charges, maybe he would have served 2 years in jail. If this judge decides to give him 4 or 5 years based on this, do I think that's unfair? Yes. Do I think President Trump would look at that and say this needs to be communed to time served or communed down to 18 months because he is 15 months in? I think so. I think that would be the fair thing to do. Whether or not he does it, I have no idea. I mean, I don't think President Trump does things because it's popular and unpopular all the time. People seem to think that a lot of people in politics do things that the masses are like, oh, this is unpopular or this is popular. President Trump does what is the right thing to do. And if he feels this is the right thing to do, I think that he would then do it. That's my opinion. I don't think he's looking.
That's an explanation.
At,
that's an explanation. No, that's at least an explanation, because a lot of people would say, I don't know what he has to gain by doing this. But by you saying, if he just, hey, I don't care where it puts me politically, but if I think it's the right thing, if I think there's an injustice, then I'm going to do it. I mean, look, he has pardoned other celebrities, not just Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, but Todd and Julie Chrisley, right? Rapper NBA YoungBoy. Is there something about the celebrity aspect that might be influencing his decision?
Well, I don't know if it's the celebrity aspect or that those individuals, some of those individuals he knew, he knew them or he had interest with them. So he knows more about those individuals than just some president. Don't forget, this is part of pop culture. This president was famous before he was president. He wasn't a senator. He wasn't some sort of political guy. He was famous because he associated with a lot of individuals that he now sees get charged with crimes. He was charged with a crime that he felt was unfair, that it was unfairly applied. Other people felt it was unfairly applied. When you look at those instances, all those things that combine, And he understands that people get charged simply because who they are. I think this gives him a unique look into the criminal justice system that generally 99% of the presidents that have come before him do not have. That is the key here. The key is he has been in the shoes of other defendants.
Do you think that this is affected by Maureen Comey, right? She was the lead prosecutor in Diddy's case. We know her father, James Comey, former FBI director, Donald Trump, no love lost there. You know, she was fired from the SDNY after the Diddy verdict, and in a statement she said, fear is...
This is just spin, according to critics, and it's just smoke and mirrors from an expensive legal team. However, the specifics are self-evident. There are more than 150 pages in the motion. It attacks the very foundation of the case and is thorough, sourced, and unrelenting. The motion states in one sentence, what this court must now consider is not whether the defendant is guilty, but whether he was ever given a fair chance to prove his innocence. I paraphrase this statement. Already, that sentence is garnering media attention. On TV, it's being quoted. Every possible platform is sharing it. And since it rephrases a question, it strikes a powerful chord. It places the onus on the system rather than Diddy, and it is a significant change. Insiders claim that the prosecution is attempting to minimize the harm behind the scenes. Case files are being re-examined. Internal reviews have begun, and there are rumors, for now only rumors, that some members of the prosecution team are defending themselves. This might quickly become ugly. Right now, though, everything depends on the judge. Diddy might leave that courthouse as a free man after only one person, one choice, and one moment. And nobody knows what will happen next. Will he say anything? Will he file a lawsuit? Will he return to the spotlight more powerful than before? Or will he vanish and let the news stories speak for themselves? To be clear, this move involves more than just legal issues. It's a move in chess. Did Squad just said, check. The system is allegedly biased in favor of the wealthy. Some claim that this demonstrates that even the strong can be overthrown. However, you cannot ignore the facts, regardless of your position. It's a real move. It is a game changer and is currently undergoing examination. And time is running out. We get closer to a decision with each hour that goes by. Outside the courthouse are reporters encamped. There are legal analysts available. Everyone is checking their court dockets and keeping an eye out for any new information, filings, or hints. And since this is about more than just Diddy, if the motion is successful, prepare for mayhem, celebration, and indignation. Power, justice, and ultimately who wins are at stake here. So, fasten your seatbelt. We are always monitoring the system, regardless of your feelings for him. Whether you believe he is guilty or innocent, you have to acknowledge that Diddy's crew just made a daring move, and they appear to be winning at the moment. Everything we believe to be true could be changed in the next days. And it won't only be a win for Diddy if he leaves the courtroom. It will be a moment that is heard in boardrooms, studios, street corners, and headlines alike. Keep your focus because history could be unfolding